My name is Captain Drew Smith. I'm stationed here at the CAL FIRE BDU San Bernardino Unit, Yucca Valley Station. Please stand for the CAL FIRE presentation of colors and the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll also need a little bit of room right down this way, right here.
Uniform personnel, up and go. Present, up. Here. Go. Work. Go ahead. Present, up.
Ready? Begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Uniform personnel, order, up. Ready? Face. Order, clear.
Please have a seat. Thank you for attending the commemoration honoring CDF, now CAL FIRE, firefighter Paul Wearing. On this date 50 years ago today, Paul responded with Company Officer Ron Newport to a reported propane tank fire. This propane tank fire was 9,800 gallons, which exploded, injuring 15 people. Two of those people were CDF personnel, Ron Newport and Paul Wearing. Both of them suffered severe injuries, severe burns, over 60% of their body. Paul, who was 20 years old at the time, later succumbed to his burn injuries on March 9th. Ron Newport survived the incident and has been dealing with the scars ever since. Years of medical issues to this day. Paul's family saddened by the incident, loss of a family member, brother, son. It's very hard to imagine. The fire community as a whole was shocked about this incident, and the ripples went through every department. It changed a lot on how we do things today. Paul's sacrifice will not be forgotten. His name is permanently placed on the firefighter memorial wall on the grounds of Sacramento. We have also in 2008 dedicated a memorial to Paul and his sacrifice, which won't be forgotten, on the grounds of the Yucca Valley Station in the corner. We'll also be seeing that after our guest speakers. Joining us today is Paul Wearing's sister, Margie Hobbs, and her husband, Jerry. Paul's other sister, Kathy Snoglin, was not able to attend, but she'll be here in spirit. Ron Newport, who survived this incident, and wish he could attend, but he was not able to, and he will also be here in spirit. Our first guest speaker will be retired Fire Captain Jerry Glover. Jerry Glover is museum manager and CEO of the CDF Museum located in our San Bernardino headquarters. Jerry was also stationed here at this fire station in 1976 to 1987. At the time, the station was 13 years old, and this station has been serving the community here ever since 1963, both state mission and this community. Our second speaker is Bob Stephenson. Bob Stephenson was witness to this incident, the UNIGAS fire in February 20th, 1970. Bob is going to talk about the photos he took at that incident and perspective and how it affected this community. Following our two guest speakers, we're going to go to the area in front of the station with with Paul Waring's memorial. We're going to have the CAL FIRE Honor Guard Local 2881 laying of the wreath and closing statements from our unit chief, Glenn Barley. After that, we're going to reconvene back in the apparatus bay for lunch. Bob Stevens.
Well, I came to Yucca Valley in 1965. I had a photo shop and studio, and eventually got to be the town photographer. And I guess it was 1968, a local lady started a newspaper called the Yucca Valley News. And she opened an office 2 doors down from me, and so I got to be her photographer. So she basically started the paper to actually run the other paper out of town. And we put enough pressure on the High Desert Star, the old High Desert Star at that time, and forced a merger between Yucca Valley News and High Desert Star. And then it was merged together, so it was ended about 1973, I guess. So on that night, February 20th, 1970, I get a phone call from her, and she says, the Safeway Market's on fire. And of course, she lived up in Sky Harbor, I lived on the Mesa. And so I come down to town and realized I couldn't get any further than Sage Avenue. And while I was at Sage Avenue, Don McDowell was right there alongside me and in a fit of shock and running towards his store, his feed store. And I positioned myself on the opposite side of the street and took all those pictures over there. And I was there probably a couple hours, I guess. Then went back the next day and took the aftermath. And I sold several $100s, which is a lot of money at that time, of pictures to attorneys, insurance companies, and all that. And but the hospital at that time was up on the south part of town, and it was really geared up for this type of event. They had a disaster plan. They had more nurses and doctors than they needed, and they were right on top of it. The town didn't have, it wasn't a town, there was no disaster plan here at all. And the water district at that time ended right at Sage Avenue. And then there was an independent operator that had his water company and insufficient pressure, and I guess they had to go clear down to Sage Avenue to hook up to the nearest fire hydrant. So it was a real strain on the firefighters because they couldn't have enough water pressure. But this is a problem we had for years with that water company, and eventually High Desert Water District took it over, and now we have sufficient. But I can remember a situation where Don had a calf in a little corral behind his feed store, and the explosion caused that calf to catch on fire. And Don went out and tried to chase it down, and in a fit of shock, and they finally had to shoot it and put it down because it was a threat to the community, spreading the fire. But so far, that's been the biggest, you might say, disaster we had, followed by the earthquake. But so the area where this happened is between the Ideal Mall and also the visitor center there now. When this happened, there wasn't a building on the east end there. It was just wide open. Eventually, Allstate Bank came in there, and then it eventually was sold to the town, and it actually had a rebuild and so forth. But the grounds there itself is still wide open. They never rebuilt on it, and the Chamber of Commerce had Grub Stake Days carnival grounds there for several years, and so someone bought it, and then kept it from being used for that purpose. But I don't know, it was real shocking, and of course, in those years I chased fire trucks and ambulances, and just to get pictures in the paper, and it's just, and I still, when I see a fire truck, I want to follow it, but my mind says, no, stay away. And this is the camera I took all those pictures with, and and it's what you call a roller cord, and that's the only thing I had from many of those years, and part of it's missing, but and then the film was, when you wanted, it took 12 shots, and then you had to open it up and take the film out, find a spot where you could see what you're doing, and put it back in and get another 12 shots. But back in those days, there's no big deal, you know, that's all we knew. But I always hang on to stuff, and my wife will remind me of that. But anyhow, that's basically what it was. I would say the Historical Society has copies of all these pictures, and they're one of the reasons why I'm here, because they encouraged me to come. But what I'm going to do is put this together on a video and put the pictures together, and then I'm going to put them on a YouTube site for future use and in memory. That way everybody can see it, and it'll be there forever. So basically that's about it, and I'm still busy doing video and so forth, and some pictures, and I just like keeping involved in the community. Thank you.
Good morning. I guess I better use this one too for the other audio. I'm Jerry Glover. I retired as a fire captain out of this station, Yucca Valley, in 1987. I started my career with forestry in July of 1956 in San Bernardino headquarters. So I spent 31 years. As I tell a lot of people now, I'm your poster boy. I've worked 31 years and I've been retired for 31 years. And I'm still here. So that seems to be a pretty good thing. On the incident, I was the supervisor of the service center, the warehouse there in San Bernardino when this incident happened. And after the incident, the unit chief at that time, Jack Burke, selected 4 of us. Clarence Shea was the battalion chief. Fred Strayhorn was the fire prevention officer. Bill Downing was the training officer, and I was the warehouseman on the committee to review what we had for safety equipment and what was available on the market. And we met and talked, and we all had some ideas and whatever. And I remembered that Mario Andretti during 1969 had a very fiery crash at Indianapolis, and he got burned on his forearm a little bit and up here on his cheek a little bit. And he was wearing something called Nomex. The other people on the committee said, "You're the warehouseman, you're used to making all those phone calls, get busy." And so I called DuPont, which made the thread, Nomex. They did not weave the fabric. A company, and I can't remember the company on the East Coast, wove the fabric. And I called them, and they couldn't get out here fast enough to talk to us. And after we told them what we wanted a uniform or a suit that a person could put on and have a minimum level of protection as they got onto the engine. Well, our first attempt is this right here. It's a jumpsuit. It's made out of Nomex. We had 4 guinea pigs, I guess you want to call them, personnel that would do a good evaluation for us and all like that. And the company made them 2 jumpsuits apiece. Now that's a little bit of an undertaking for this company because they had a gang of 90 sewing machines that they had to change the bobbin and the top thread to Nomex because Nomex will cut nylon. So we had to use Nomex thread to sew it together. And they did that. They made the 4 of them. They sent them out to us. We evaluated them. And the company didn't charge us anything because I think they knew what the market was going to be. We settled on the idea of having 2-piece, slip-on trousers and a fire shirt. Now, where's our firefighter? Right there. This is what they're wearing today in the wildland gear. He has his helmet and a fire shirt, and the trousers are Nomex trousers, right? Nomex trousers. So he's on what they call single layer protection right now, which is what we was trying to do with this way back in 1970. So there's been a lot of progress and all. One of the points with Paul Waring's passing, it's always been said, excuse me, that when somebody passes, their good will come out of it. Their good is safety clothing. We didn't have, we didn't have that before. What we had before was what I'm wearing now is khaki trousers. This is the fire control badge that when I was appointed foreman in February 1960. And a helmet. And that's what we had. If you wanted gloves, you had to go buy them yourself. So fire service has come a long ways because of Paul's demise. Not only CAL FIRE, but all fire service is now using Nomax in their bunker clothing, their structure clothing, internationally. And it all started here with Paul. This engine behind us is owned, the museum, the CAL FIRE Museum owns it. I also started that in 1970. This engine happened to have been first in service in Julian, and it's the sister engine of the one that was destroyed in the incident, the UNIGAS incident here. We do have an individual from Orange County that was a supervisor of Ron Newport. And I have two people here from Orange County that I've been communicating with, and Ron's not in good health. He wasn't able to make the trip up here. So I'm sure when we're meeting afterwards and we get one-on-one and we're talking, you can talk with the different folks that want things. But I just wanted to explain the evolution of safety clothing and how it come about because of Paul's demise.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Jerry. Next, we're going to reconvene in front of the station next to the memorial.
Good morning. All right, good morning. Can everyone hear me in the back there? Feel free to scooch on up if you would like. Well, good morning again. My name is Glenn Barley, and it's my privilege to serve as the unit chief for the San Bernardino unit. And before I have a few closing comments, I just would like to take a moment and acknowledge a few folks and to thank a few folks. So first of all, we have a number of cooperators here: San Bernardino County Fire, Morongo Valley Fire, CHP. Thank you all very much for coming and taking time out of your day to be here. Much appreciated. So thank you guys for doing that. I also would like to thank our Honor Guard and our Piper, 2881, Local 2881. Guys, your attention to detail, your crisp movements, and your willingness to serve in these events always adds a level of decorum to these things, and appreciate it. And especially like the touch of the retro uniforms there. So thanks, guys. Also, we've had a number of folks that have been involved in pulling today together. Captain Smith and Captain Bradley here at the Yucca Valley Station have been the ones that have carried the load, and their staff and their firefighters pulling today together, and would like to thank those guys for making today happen, so thank you guys. Yep. I also want to thank, there are a number of veterans here, and I had a chance to meet some of you before the event started this morning, and I very much appreciate you being out here today and being part of today's event. It was an honor to talk to you, especially those of you who are involved in this actual incident. So thank you for coming out this morning and being part of this. Really appreciate you taking time to be here today, so thank you guys. So, yep, that's worth a hand. And we have a number of CAL FIRE alum folks that are here today, folks that are retired, and thank you for being here as well. The last person I want to thank is Paul Waring's sister, Margie, and her husband as well for being out here this morning. Thank you for coming. She expressed that a number of family wanted to come, but just because of distance and travel, we're not able to be here. But thank you very much for coming this morning and allowing us to honor Paul and your family for his sacrifice. So, and Margie asked if she could say a few words to everyone. If you're able to hold both, that would be great.
Both of them?
Or I'll hold it for you. That's okay.
I can tell.
You got it?
Thank you. I so appreciate everything that's been done here today. I wish I had a couple other family members that could hold me up right now. But my sister has had surgery and couldn't travel. 50 years is a long time, but it still hurts. My husband and I live very close to the Hammett Ryan Airfield, within a mile. And every time I see the planes and I see the trucks and everything, I pray that everyone will be okay. I want to thank Captain Bradley for tracking me down. Don't ever think that someone can find you if they want to. I laid awake all night last night trying to prepare a speech, and it's all gone. But thank you from the bottom of my heart, and all the CAL FIRE people. It's been a tough few years, and I pray that you all come home safely at night. Thank you. Whoops, I'm twisted. I made it. If I fail.
Thank you very much, Marjorie. So my comments will be fairly brief, but I do appreciate the opportunity to say a few words before we close this out. And, going back in time for eons, mankind has been erecting monuments of one kind or another, some as simple as a pile of rocks to large statues and other monuments that are erected. And we do that to acknowledge a special event that has occurred or something of importance that has happened. We stand next to such a monument today. It acknowledges the events that occurred 50 years ago where a firefighter lost his life in service to his community. It also acknowledges the service of his fellow firefighters who were injured that day. This is a rock monument that stands here. But my challenge to myself and to all of you today as we leave is to become a living monument. Every time we put on personal protective gear, that should be a reminder to us of the sacrifice that was made here 50 years ago today. Our PPE continues to evolve today. As you saw the firefighter standing there, that's a relatively new evolution in our PPE going back to single layer Nomex. But the monuments are here so that when people come by, they ask the question, why is the monument here? What's its purpose? And today they can read on the plaque. But if we go and leave here today and we are living monuments, people can ask us, what's the significance of our PPE? What's the significance of what happened 50 years ago? And we can tell them the story about what happened, but also the significance of the gear that we wear, the tactics that we employ, so that they will know, so that current and future generations of firefighters will know. That's my challenge to all of us today as we leave, that this is Paul's sacrifice and service to the community. There was some small good that came out of that. And it's up to us to carry that forward. With that, we'll close out today's events. I would like to invite everybody to join us for lunch afterwards. There's plenty of food, so we invite you to come in and have a bite to eat, but also to talk and share, especially the veteran folks that are here. We encourage you to do that so that all of us can get a chance to say hello to you and hear a little bit about the incident that occurred. So with that, thank you all very much for coming this morning, and we invite you to join us for lunch. Thank you.